Thank you for coming to talk to us today, Victoria. We are going to be editing some of the footage and that we'll be using for an educational session for Boehringer Ingelheim, and that may feature on on the Roy Castle YouTube channel with your kind permission. So the purpose for today is that we're going to try and raise awareness about lung cancer and the impact it has on people, to raise the profile of Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation. So I'll read that again. The purpose of doing this is to increase the awareness about lung cancer, the impact it has on people, and to raise the profile of the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation, to encourage people to go to their doctor if they're concerned about signs and symptoms. So to start with, can you tell us a bit about your mum Janice and how she came to be diagnosed with lung cancer and her treatment?
Okay, so my mum, she was diagnosed with lung cancer back in February 2014. We originally thought that she'd had a stroke because she was displaying all the sort of usual symptoms of a stroke, of slurred speech, her face had dropped, etc. She got rushed into hospital. And they did further tests, different CT scans, MRI scans, etc. And then it was revealed that she had tumours in her brain, and that they would need to do further tests to find out what sort of cancer that was. She got out of hospital, and then about a week later we found out that she had cancer in her lungs, in her liver, in her bones, that had gone to her brain. We didn't know at that point that it was lung cancer. They actually thought it was breast cancer because my mum had been diagnosed with breast cancer 5 years previously. It wasn't actually until she had to be admitted for a hip replacement because the cancer had got into her bones, that they did a biopsy, and then they discovered it was actually lung cancer. And sadly that was only about 2 weeks before she passed away. So my mum didn't actually undergo that much treatment for her cancer. She had radiotherapy for her brain while she was in hospital, but she unfortunately didn't get to the stage of having chemo because she was too weak, and then she sadly passed away.
Thank you for sharing. I know you've covered some of this already in some of the things that you said, but could you tell us, did your mum have any symptoms that she didn't realise until after diagnosis?
So my mum had symptoms such as like a cough, a persistent cough, and then she also had pain in her ribs as well. But she sort of, just put it off, put it down to different things, put it down to, chest infection, cold, actually like a stitch, or had she bruised something in her rib. I don't think she actually ever thought that she had lung cancer. I don't think that actually entered her mind at the time. It wasn't until she was displaying symptoms of having a stroke that she did actually realise there was something wrong. But in terms of the lung cancer, she just had a persistent cough, but didn't really think it was anything serious.
Gosh, and how did your mum cope with diagnosis and treatment?
So my mum was only diagnosed a month before she died, so taking it all in, obviously it was a massive shock, especially when you're being diagnosed and you're told that it's terminal, so there's no cure for the disease. She was heartbroken, as we all were, especially because I just had a baby, and she said to me, I'm not going to be able to see him grow up. So all those sorts of thoughts come into her head, that, planning for the future that she wouldn't be able to do. And her and my dad were looking forward to retirement, and I think that took quite a big toll on her, really. So it was hard, but we pulled together as a family, tried to be strong, and tried to be planning sort of what we were going to do. But then sadly, as I said, she didn't actually get that much treatment because she went downhill really quickly. So we didn't actually get to the chemotherapy stage, unfortunately.
It's quite a very brave story indeed. Another thing I'd love to find out is when your mum was diagnosed, what did you and your family do to support each other?
I suppose just being there for my mum and trying to be positive, so not think about all the negative things, don't think about anything other than fighting and winning. And I think that really helped her mindset, because mind over matter is a massive thing, and it was a massive thing for when my mum beat breast cancer years previously. So just being there, being supportive, finding different ways of how we were going to fight it together, and for her basically just knowing that she had that support network, I think helped massively.
And how aware were you about lung cancer before your mum was diagnosed? And also, had you ever heard anyone else have lung cancer before this as well?
So to be honest, I really didn't know that much about lung cancer. You just associate it with a smoker's disease. Didn't really know anyone that had had it, and actually saying that, the only person that we did know that had lung cancer was actually a non-smoker. But it didn't really enter my head about being, you know, the #1 cancer killer in women, or any of the detail that I know now, because there just isn't that much awareness out there. So you always hear about breast cancer and other cancers, which is absolutely amazing, and I think so many people know about those cancers and what to look out for, but I'd never really seen anything about lung cancer before my mum was diagnosed. So it wasn't until I literally got the laptop out and started diagnosing everything myself and looking things up that I didn't realise all the scary facts that were associated with lung cancer.
And so how did you get to hear about the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation?
So it was literally after my mum was diagnosed with lung cancer. I just literally was Googling everything to do with lung cancer to find out as much information as possible that I could. And I just come across Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation. One of the first things that I come across was the blogs and people writing in there about different advice and everything, and I thought that was a really good support